Hi, I'm Tim Vang, and I'm the founder of Preto. I am truly passionate about helping companies stop wasting brain waste, time waste, resource waste. Let's get to the point where it's not just about food waste and plastic ocean waste to create a greater world. I look very much forward to be a part of this Voices of the Future. Over to you, Tariq.
Tim, it's a real pleasure to have you here. We sat around exactly this table. You may remember my goldfish. We had dinner together a couple of years ago, and I remember that very fondly. Ladies and gentlemen, on Voices of the Future, we have Tim Vang. He's an entrepreneur. He's a global speaker. He's an author. He's a storyteller. He goes out there and tells people the truth. He is a truth teller, which actually is so important some of the time, because he tells them, folks, you're wasting money for what? And I think sometimes the immune systems of organizations click in, and we need catalysts like Tim to go there and wake them up and shake them up. He's here today on Voices of the Future to do exactly that. Tim, welcome.
Thank you.
I hope I did justice to the intro to you.
I loved it. I loved it. I mean, I didn't know what you're going to say. As you said, you have your way of introducing it, but I think you're hitting the nail on the head here.
Thank you very much. Tim, can we go and talk about little Tim? How did you grow up? Was there a moment of inspiration? Was it something your environment? What made you who you are today?
And let me start off by saying I've always been explorative, adventurous, and I will point this to my mom and dad. I will. Let me give you an example of where I really I shaped something, because I just did a lot of crazy stuff as a kid. But when I really understand their upbringing of me was the following. If I said, I'm going to climb that tree there, I was never told no. Because if I got to know, I'll go around the corner and climb an even higher tree, dangerous tree, a tree that could break. So what I was told was, hold on. And I must say, that kind of gave me a push in the back of trust in yourself, but hold on. So there was a kind of a proactive advice instead of a stop advice. That to me is really, I would say, a liberty of having a set of parents behind you, knowing you will do crazy stuff when we're not around, but actually think about that. The next thing that came into mind is they always told me, Tim, we rather see a happy garbage collector than a sad CEO. So I never had the gun to the head of being a lawyer or a doctor or anything else. I had the liberty to follow my passion, to do something where I would create value. And then that will somehow create my life and actually give me the opportunity to live the life that I would like to. So, I mean, these two things have stayed with me. And as a kind of funny sidekick, I have an old mom now. My dad passed some years ago. My old mom, I was following her down yesterday on the staircase. I would say a rather steep staircase. And I told her, hold on. So actually, it's kind of the circle ends. And I was like, to be honest, I get a little emotional here. But the thing, I was really touched by that afterwards. It was like, whoa, I'm telling my mom now, this is her tree, kind of coming down saying, hold on, Mom. Instead of saying, go slower or stop or something else. Yeah.
What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that personal moment, because I lost my mom a couple of years ago, and she used to sit around there. And I have a lot of memories, so I know exactly what you're saying. I was an extremely successful student, athlete. I was at school, and I was curious, I was naughty, I was successful. Until I was about 23 years of age, and I was in London, and I failed my accountancy exam, my chartered accountancy exam, because I was pushed into a direction that I didn't want to go into, but I was like, people with my background need to be a doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer. And Tim, I didn't know how to fail. And I told my parents that, you gave me love, you gave me everything. You didn't teach me how to fail. You didn't. My dad used to, he used to keep saying, or if it's not going to, whatever doesn't kill you is going to make you stronger. So go out and do it. My mother was hovering a little bit, and and she was being protective. And because I was so successful, and we were built around a life of success, that I wasn't allowed to go from an A to a B. And the only freedom that I had was, as long as I was getting straight A's, I could go out with girls. As long as I was getting straight A's, I could go out and play 4 hours of sports. But at B, everything stops. So I knew my motivations.
Back to study. Yeah.
Back to study. And that worked well. The reason I'm sharing this is that our education system and the way we are developing our young, and again, Scandinavia is leading in that, Finland in particular, and I'm sure some of the learnings are there too. What are we teaching our kids? I mean, how is that figuring out in terms of being and coping with the world that we're living in today?
I think we are still Taylorism. I mean, it's about creating production facility students coming out of the sausage end here. I would say you're right that Scandinavia, the Nordics, are kind of front runners, but let's not paint a romantic picture here. I have kids in school here in Denmark. I still see the Taylorism kind of production facility education, but it's coming more and more. And what I think is, it's also what you have of alternatives, or I would say offers around school, after school activities, etc. That is really where I see, wow, okay, here you can actually lift it and get some more skills. I fully agree with you. We speak a lot in Denmark about failing fast, learning fast, etc. This is from governmental to, the student. So you have the whole shebang in there. But it's still, I would say, not 80%, but a lot of talk and not so much action. But it's coming more and more. I can see projections now. And it will come. Yeah.
The other side was, you mentioned Singapore. In Singapore, they are again super successful like me, but they were not allowed to fail because that's the society and that's the culture. So I think, we needed to learn. And post that, I became more humble, vulnerable, open, accessible, and my humility and my growth happened more in the 1 or 2 years around my failure space than all of my success spaces, and I've had a lot since. Moving forward, one of your big claims to fame is your amazing work that you did on prototyping. Can you tell us what that is, and about the book, and what inspired you to write that?
Yes. Let me go back to my mentor, my guru. In 2012, I was invited to come and hear about how Google was innovating from within. They called it prototyping, and I'm not mispronouncing it with an E instead of an O, where prototyping. This is in 2012. I'd never heard about prototyping. It was a couple of years old, and kind of their process or structure of bringing new ideas, product, services to market. I got to know what it was, and I flew straight over there to be taught by the master Alberto Savoia, who was the lead honcho on this setup. He was also the lead honcho on Google AdWords, now Google Ads. So he's the moneymaker in Google at that time. And what I saw there was a way of, and I'll stretch the words prototyping into pretend-o-typing. So it's about simulating the core experience of a non-existing product to the market. And remind yourself that the market does not know it doesn't exist, meaning you're getting valid market reactions. You're not getting like in a focus group, a panel, such where you get people to say, yeah, I would love to buy that product in 2 years when you've done. You don't know. That's an opinion or a gut feeling, or even you're trying to be nice. Here and that's what you also introduced me as, the truth teller, because it's hard to get something about a new product. You just developed this, and you're getting no reactions. I mean, that's not fun. So prototyping is a execution tool where you very, very early, when you are in idea stage or a project state, where you're saying, we would like to develop this new product. Why would you go out? If I tell you 80% of all new products will fail when they hit the market, why would you go on if you don't get some valid data in order to find out which 80% should we discard or save for later? I mean, perhaps when technology is ready or something, or market is ready, and which 20% should we invest in? So the whole idea is actually deciphering between the 80 and the 20% and finding out which 20% does have a product market fit potential, where the market understands it, is in need of it, or actually would like to pay for it. Because a lot of innovation is about being most creative. I'm like, no. Let's be very brutally honest and take it in and get the facts from the market in a pretended version, so you can actually start iterating on that, because you will never hit right the first time, even with the 20% you actually has a market potential. So you will actually be in a situation where you have to iterate a lot. And sometimes, because when I meet companies and they're building I would say, a rational product for a rational market, but I tell them it's not a rational market out there. It's actually super irrational. Sometimes they make decisions that, I mean, if I came to you with an Excel spreadsheet that was faster, and you would say, yeah, but I still have my habits, and okay, I'll stick to this. Even though it's 10 times faster, better, I can do some other calculations. But the thing is, people are not always super rational in decision making, and Prototype as such is a product or a service that we offered our clients. In the beginning, it was a lot about training, like you see normally. Back in 12, 13, 14, 15, we taught companies how to prototype. That's what you also saw when I was in Dubai. But we kind of changed the last 3 years to say, nothing really magical happens. It doesn't transform the business. What if instead of teaching them, what if we did it for them? What if we took over their experiments and said, let's us do it? And we created a speedy system, just like a McDonald's. So we have a speedy system now. They come with their project, we put it in, and we know exactly what to do to test this in the market. We do this for Lego, Deutsche Telekom, for big corporations around the world that are interested in finding out where should we put our money. And this process is super lean. It's backed by, nerds, and I mean nerds, but I'm a nerd myself, so I say it with the heart outside. We have nerds within each discipline. This is so me campaigning, etc. And the whole setup is they end up with validated data they can make informed decisions from and say, no, we don't want to do that or do that. And that's the truth. And the truth, sometimes you don't want to hear it.
You're exploding a lot of ideas in my head right now, and I have a bunch of questions. But before I launch into those, just a step back, can you give us a couple of spectacular examples of success or failure that we would recognize? I think you mentioned it was one of them was on a Pepsi or a Coke in terms of launching their product. Something that we can hang our hat on and be able to relate to.
Let's take Segway. Segway is a fantastic example of perhaps one of the biggest capitalization of a company. And their promise to the market was, okay, we'll go out and change the way people transport themselves. So it's a new way of commuting. And today, they could have tested in many ways, but today it ends up being tourists driving around your city and saying, here's the Little Mermaid, here is X, Y, and Z. So I think the Pepsi is also very good. I think it was one of the biggest I would say market analysis they made, where they said we can remove some of the brown stuff and make it clear Pepsi, and that brown stuff is the same taste as everything. And they made taste tests, and everybody said, yeah, fantastic, this is great. But what happens when they introduced it to the market? Nobody bought it. People, again, back to the irrational part, people are super irrational, and their habit wants to say, yeah, but I think I can feel or taste the brown stuff, so I'll still go with that stuff, even though they told Pepsi that the clear is everything. That's really the new black. I want that. This is cool. But the market reaction in a different way.
So I'll go one stage further than people being irrational. Sometimes they just don't know, as Steve Jobs famously used to say, is that customers don't even know what they want until they actually get it in their hands. And that's the art of marketing, to actually create an environment to give them something they didn't even think they needed. But now that you've given it to them. So does this process help that too?
That's everything here. I would say we do only online setups now, but it's the same process. We measure when let's say we do a SoMe campaign for a new product. I can tell an example here. We did parametric insurance for farmers. And the whole idea was first to find out, okay, we want to, of course, address this to farmers. And they can either go for their crops or their household. Okay, so let's so we went with the SoMe campaign, and we did get a lot of responses. So you have to go to find, okay, where do we find them? So we found them in a different place with banners on a very, I would say, professional farmer setup. Okay, good. And we drive traffic in. And here comes the interesting part. Nobody reacted really in the beginning. And we're like, why? Why is this? And suddenly we got reactions from cities. And you don't have farms in cities. We're like, why are cities reacting to this? So we started looking into the data. And what we found out was, this is not an insurance for the farmers. It's for the kids of the farmers, because that's it. They're going to inherit this. So the whole idea, we didn't know who the target group was. We thought this is the target group because that was in the brief. But the whole idea is actually to listen, find out where is it you unlock this market. And when they got it in their hands, back to your question, when they got it in their hands, they could easily say, this is what we want, because they're being hit by thunderstorms, rain, or drought, or whatever it is. So actually, suddenly we could completely different tailorism around this product. So we can say, how can we take this to another level by having them so feedbacking and looping from their feedback.
Yeah.
So yes.
The world is moving at an exponential rate. I am now on record by saying that change is not relevant anymore. It's too slow. Transformation is better because it is a little bit faster. Reinvention is sort of where we are, and metamorphosis is where we are going. Like we have to change ourselves from a caterpillar to a butterfly. In this speed of change, and I know you're very familiar with all of that space, where does this thing fit in? And is it slowing us down or helping us to go faster?
I would easily say it's helping us go faster, because actually you're not using your focus, your energy, your drive, your employee satisfaction on run products. So you can actually go straight in. And I think that's also going to help kind of the world in creating more right products, product with a purpose. I think that's gonna help in that sense. I think we're gonna go fast. Speed is everything here. I mean, I can see it when we introduce a product. Suddenly, the competitor has it. So there is something still around first mover, even though I think it's about first scaler, who actually scales first and actually takes over. But I think it's also about creating the right products. So it's not just about speed, but it's also about the purpose and creating products of that is really needed in a world that is becoming more and more transparent and needs something that's not polluting, not being utilizing kids in their production, etc.
Yeah, you know, we are the way the book is being designed and all the conversations is that we are converging different technologies that are all coming in. The book is the cooking part of all ideas, thoughts, and so on, and then there's this divergence. In this divergence, there are new things that are going to happen, unintended consequences. You know, we are crossing over biotechnology with quantum computing. We are crossing over, you know, health with education, and. So what is happening is that there's new things being created out there. What are your thoughts in terms of how some of your knowledge or some of your methodologies can help us navigate this divergent future? And a lot of it we don't even know yet. How do you prepare for things we don't know yet?
That's always a good question. Thank you for that, Rick. No, but I think let's take the close future, not like in 5-10 years from now, but really, you said it before with Steve Jobs. They don't know it until they have it in their hands. I mean, you can easily sit there and say, okay, we need AI in our business, a new product. Do clients understand this? So I think this is the truth-telling part, is that let's design this product, not develop. Let's design it as if it's there to see how the market is reacting. And I guarantee you, we've done this with companies where they are 2-3 years ahead of the clientele. I mean, they don't understand the value proposition. They're like, yeah, sounds good. Oh, there's some AI, but I have my daily routine here. So they're not reacting. And then actually, I think, so sometimes you need to be, I think that's the whole exercise here. Just do it. Let's not think too much. I mean, Amazon is doing I mean, and Uber and everybody's doing thousands of experiments because what? 80% will fail. So if you have 10 ideas, you have 2 successful. What if you have 100? 20 successful. What if you have 1,000? 200. So that's the kind of the thinking. It's not about doing longer, more deep kind of, I would say, process. It's about finding out, because suddenly, let's say you had 100 ideas, and idea 3 and 70, they failed. But if you add the results from 3 and 70, you have idea number 101 that none of us could think of. So I think it's more being listening to the market. What are they telling us that we might be able to couple in a new product or a new service?
Yeah, no, I think that's you hit the nail on the head there, because Amazon and Uber are doing 100 experiments, 80 of them will fail, and I think that whole innovation culture and tolerance to failure, and actually not even tolerance, embracing failure is something.
Exactly.
And I do a lot of work in places like Turkey and Singapore and Poland, where failure is really not a, it's not a culturally acceptable environment. So this thing is very interesting, what you're saying. One of the key things that I keep encountering, Tim, is that, and I talk about the future of work and the future of jobs, 70% plus of the jobs that will exist in 2030 do not exist today, whether it's in finance, retail, and so on. So the HR people are asking me, so who do we hire and how do we hire? For jobs, and I say, yeah, that's an issue. For jobs that don't yet exist, for the skills you don't yet know that you may need in 7 years' time. Sure. So you have 2 unknown unknowns. And that starts becoming a very interesting challenge. And I drive it through purpose in the center. And then I say, you need a few human elements like flow and ethics and vitality and humanity and pulling all of those elements together and bringing all the human elements of love and harmony and compassion and kindness and generosity and so on. Hire people around this and train people for the rest, because we don't know how fast this shit's going to happen.
And you cannot sit and wait for it. You cannot sit and wait saying, okay, now we have the need. Yeah, everybody's taking. I mean, so I agree with you. It's about attitude more than altitude as such, you can say.
But the variable that you are inserting right now is actually quite interesting, because we can say to more practical CEOs like, okay, so Moses didn't come down and say that the financial year it has to be 12 months. I mean, it wasn't a 11th commandment. Why don't we do shorter cycles of evaluation, 3 months at a time? Test out a few things, see a few people coming in, have an experimentation culture. Perhaps that is where we start preparing people for a future which, I mean, most people say uncertain, but I feel it's an abundant future. Yes, it's uncertain. But we can experiment our way there. What are your experiences and thoughts on that?
Let me start by saying I love that thinking. Break down something which is, I mean, as you say, 12 months. Why is that's a financial year? Yeah, but I mean, let's measure on something completely different. I'm a measure guy, so I measure on almost anything we do for our clients and for ourselves. One thing, and here's kind of after post-COVID, we changed the way of actually attracting people, saying you shouldn't come to the office unless you want to. At least have to be there on Wednesdays. But also now we have people from around the world, so it's we can't meet, and I think that is kind of changing the office need, and we love that, but we are testing it. So my advice on anything of this, just do it. Test and measure and find out what it gives of results. So call it 3 months, 12 months. That's one thing. But if you start doing a slide deck with 83 pages and a spiral back and a smart, this is operation something and a smart name, I think you're lost. Just do it. Use your time, your energy on a small setup with 2 people. But Tim, that's not scalable, and that's not very. It doesn't have a kind of a. I would say a presence of data you can trust. I didn't say it was the last experiment. I'm going to iterate on that, but I'm going to start with 2 people. You're still going to plan and write 83 pages. So the thing is, just do it. Whatever you think, set up a small experiment and tell people, hey, we'll just test this. How does it feel? Okay, it's good. Okay, good. Should we go on? Yeah. What else have you said? So it's always about what you include, ask them 3 questions. One is, what is it you liked in this new change? Oh, I like A, B, and C. Good. Okay. What is it you think will not give you a purpose or a feeling of this is a good idea? Oh, it's D, E, and F. Okay. The last question is very important. Is there something I haven't seen that you saw or experienced during this process? Yeah. Why don't we do this, this, and this? Let's try it again without. And I think this is more about, instead of having a goal, it's more process, and have a process oriented saying, let's just do it. Instead of, it's exactly what prototyping is. I don't know the answers, but I have a process, a speedy system. You throw in your project, I guarantee you I'll come with data. You either love them or hate them, but they're the truth. That's exactly the same with this. Experiment your way. I think we talked about the learning organization. Who has the term the experimental organization? I think that's a more agile setup where you're actually starting to test hypotheses. Instead of saying hypothesis turns into assumption, assumption turns into a business case. You don't know. It's just assumptions, for God's sake. So the whole idea is for you as a company or an organization, what is just set up experiment. I've done the last part on this one. Don't get me carried away. Sorry, you know that. I did this for the world's 4th largest organization. And we built a corporate garage. Not mentioning the name, I can say a little bit more. Because they're not the 4th largest anymore. So that's a different story. But the whole idea was we did the corporate garage, we did everything, and we started doing experiments. And then they started hiring people. And I was like, this is going to end up as innovation theater. This is going to meet the 83 pages where they tell what they one day is going to do, instead of just continue using the funds, time, energy, and the happiness on doing results. So and it ended up like that. And they closed down the corporate garage. And the whole setup is, I think we just need to add some curious with some structure, and then some I would say curious again. What happened? What can we learn? What can we do differently? And iterate. Iteration is going to be the fuel of the future.
I always start my presentations, and I'll ask you the same question. What do you think is the 1 or 2 most important things that will define the future? Any kind of future in any industry.
I think there's a great future ahead of us. I would like you, abundance guy. I think it's out there, and I think tech, that's my one word. Tech is going to help us. It's going to solve a lot of the environmental setups. We haven't seen it yet. We think we've seen it. I think when I move around startups and I see, wow, is this really happening? Why don't we take this to scale? But I think the market is, what if that was not the right thing? But let's test that again. Let's just do it and see what results it creates, and then start scaling it up. So I think technology is, of course, that's one of my darlings. I also see where people go more offline, but that's a different story. The second thing is purpose. I don't think in years from now, you're not able to drive a business if you don't have a real purpose. And I'm not saying some ad agency forwarder kind of, I'm saying a depth, because it's so transparent. And I think that's just a fundamental you need. And I learned from, I was pioneering crowdfunding back in the beginning of 2000. And I learned something there because we were doing this investment platform towards African entrepreneurs. And crowdfunding was the only solution. And what I found out was business must be for profit, yet profit must be for purpose. And I think that 2-liner there in my world is really telling, and then use technology to kind of leverage and do this. So I think that's my take on the future.
Beautiful answer, but you fell in the trap, which I set up for you. No, I love it. Business is for profit and profit is for purpose. Love that. I think we'll have a headline on that. My view, and the way I set up this question is that the future is going to be defined by trust. By trust, truth, and ethics, because that trifecta is the core. Will be trust in technology, trust in finance, trust in AI, trust in everything. If you don't have trust, it won't work. Trust has always been at a premium. Now it's just completely off the charts. And the trust deficit in the world is so high at this point in time. We don't trust our governments, our whatever. So that needs to be, and truth behind that, and ethics very close to it. And underlaying all of that is the purpose, the values, and the human empathy, the human components. So I put this on one slide, and I say, if in the next 30 minutes you remember nothing but just this one slide, I have succeeded. Because if we can build our future based on trust, truth, and ethics as our core of every decision we make, built with values, purpose, and empathy, the world's a good place. And that's how I actually start.
I love that, Sadiq. We also had that. We had that during the dinner when I was at your place. A lovely, lovely conversation, and I admire that slide. I'll pick up more inspiration from that. I love that. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that. And you know, when I interviewed this 80-year-old chef, and I asked him the same question I'm about to ask you, and I said, Chef Aurora, we will be I hope you will invite me to your 100th birthday. And he perked up. He's 81 years old, and he was like, I'm going to live to 100. I said, so I said, what are we celebrating? And he said, you know, since you have spoken about that, my brain's been working on what's going to be the menu. Because a chef thinks of the menu immediately, and he gave me the menu on his 100th birthday. It was awesome. But then he also spoke about love. He spoke about family. He spoke about us sitting around and having a conversation. And my thesis on that one, Tim, is that in 20 years' time, when he is 100, everything would have changed. But actually, the fundament, nothing would have changed. And I think we need to do both of those, you know, the accelerator brake kind of thing, where, yes, we can change everything. But I think there are things that are constants in our lives: truth, trust, kindness, warmth, you know, affection, generosity, etc., etc. They are constant. Family is constant. And I think those constants should be an integral part of our thinking. So here we are on your 100th birthday. My final question. What are we celebrating, Tim? You're not even at half time yet. You're a baby. So
that every morning I get up, I'm alive. Because then nobody, we're celebrating that because a lot of people are waiting for when they get the BMW and they get the big villa, I'm like, what can you do when you're happy? You can walk on water. Okay, good. So I wake up every morning and I'm happy. So I think we are celebrating people around me are making the width of my smile every morning and every evening very wide. I mean, very broad and happy. I think it's really about happy, love, and affection, because I know what will one day be on my tombstone. 4 words. One day, and that's 120 or 100, whatever. If we, let's say we might be able to live longer. Let's see. But I have these 4 words, and I think they're really telling about how I'm a process guy instead of how I'm an end goal guy. It says, while alive, he lived. And I think it's life we're celebrating. That's maybe a better word. And you're there for sure. You're there, and what we experienced, how kind you were. You just met me. You bring the whole crowd back to your place. You have amazing food. I still remember the food, the chili. that was hot. But I think that's a good picture of the atmosphere that's there. That the vibe. I mean, people. Some you've known for ages. Some you just met. But we are fueling on each other. It's not one fueling the other. It's actually a combination of a kind of a setup where we're celebrating life, and that the world and the future, like we're talking about now, is looking prosperous. It's looking great. But there's still the core value, kind of the stem of the tree and the roots. It's still love, affection, work. I mean, family, friends, happiness, smile, laughing, good food. So yes, I think
Tim,
that was a long answer. Sorry for that.
No. I think the essence of the answer is beautiful. But what I'd like to add is I've interviewed literally thousands of people, but about 100 for this for Voices of the Future. I've asked most of them this question. Not one of them spoken about their billions or their millions, or nobody's spoken about money. And so the things that we keep chasing is not what we are actually all about. And that's one of the core messages that I want to bring out from the messages of the book as we look into the future, is actually it's about those human things. And I love your 4 lines, your 4 words: while alive, he lived. Tim, you're living really your full life now, and I hope you can contribute and have your smile bigger and broader, and let's do wonderful things together.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother, for being here. Thank you for being generous with your time. And as the book comes out, as all of the platforms come out, we'll share them with you, and please socialize it and take it out there.
Of course.
So a lot of people will actually enjoy what you said, because it's practical stuff. It's not woohoo stuff into the future. Yeah. So thank you for that. Real pleasure.
Thank you, Tariq.